Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Esoteric and a continuing series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a look at my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're playing Radical Bikers, made by Galco in 1998. Now I know this got a PlayStation 1 port in the UK. The reason I'm doing this video is 1, that port is vastly inferior to the arcade original, and 2, this is the #1 game everyone keeps asking me to cover on Unported Playlists, which makes me laugh because it definitely isn't unported, but it's my channel, I set the rules, and if we want to play some crazy taxi with pizza involved, then we can do it. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But let's start delivering some pizzas. If you've never heard of Radical Bikers before, I wouldn't be surprised if you're not a huge fan, because this basically came and went in arcades and only got a PlayStation 1 release in PAL territories. There is a sequel, Smashing Drive, that got a little bit more distribution, but honestly Radical Bikers is definitely one of those underground hidden gems. And when I say it's a hidden gem, I mean it. This game is just straight up fun. If you've ever played Crazy Taxi before, you're going to 100% understand what's going on here with Radical Bikers. And they came out at basically the same time as well, so you can't say that this is a Crazy Taxi clone, because they were in development at the same time. The premise is simple. Get from point A to point B as quickly as possible because you need to deliver a pizza. You also have a CPU opponent that's trying to deliver the pizza first. First pizza there wins. If you don't get the pizza there, you lose. It's a very simple formula, but when you're playing it feels anything but. Because while this game is fair, navigating the world of Radical Bikers does take some practice. There is a ton of traffic, a ton of jumps, and different power-ups you can obtain, and you really need to race a clean line, especially in later levels, if you're going to get that pizza there on time and ahead of your CPU opponent. You'll see the first level, no big deal for me whatsoever. But picking your racing line and dealing with all the traffic is the name of the game in Radical Bikers. And this really does just feel like a companion game to Crazy Taxi, even though it came from a completely different company. And this is a beloved game. I'm playing this on a special version of MAME that is basically designed just to play Radical Bikers via emulation, because this isn't really a very easy game to emulate, and it does like to crash. I am looking for an original PCB of this game so I can add it to my collection. That is how much I enjoy it. But as you see here, going through traffic, weaving in and out, and taking shortcuts, this is where all the fun in the game comes. That battle between first and second place with your opponent. You'll see here that I'm just able to squeak that victory out by getting a couple clean turns in the very end, even though I do bump into some cars. And that's what's so great about this game, the bump and run mechanics and trying to do that squeezing in and out of vehicles. If you hit it just right, you're going to get a lead, but if you make one mistake, you're going to drop back and then you're going to be hunting for that lead again. You will see there I just got a rocket ship power up, and that gives you super speed for about 10 seconds or so. And those power ups, especially in later levels, are going to be crucial to get and understand where they are, because they are going to make the difference between winning or losing. And now on the graphical side, this definitely looks that classic late 90s jank, but I just love it. The intense colors, all of the blocky polygons. This kind of feels like a Sega Model 3 game if Model 3 couldn't put up as many polygons as it did. It definitely has that same vibe, and I love the Italian theming of this here. We basically just went under the Parthenon, or maybe that's in Greece, I can't remember, leave me a comment down below, and we're seeing what is old Italy down here as we weave in and out of traffic. All of this game is just spectacle. It's so much fun to look at, it's so much fun to play, it's so colorful and so weird. You can't help but love it, even if you didn't get your pizza there on time. Now I will say, around this era, you might start seeing a freeze here or there. I tried running it in compatibility mode, I tried different versions of the emulator, but it would still freeze 50% of the time on the same level, so maybe just skip this one level and you'll be totally fine. And I love that we're in Italy and one of Da Vinci's flying machines just went by. This game does get hit a lot if you read about it as a Crazy Taxi clone, but that's totally unfair because these are basically in development at the same time. It's one of those situations where sometimes the same game comes out from two different developers basically being the exact same thing. One of them blows up and becomes popular, Crazy Taxi. Another one gets forgotten about and is just called a clone, Radical Bikers, but it is on its own an incredible game, and in some ways I like it ever so slightly more than Crazy Taxi, just because it has the most absurd soundtrack ever. I really hope this doesn't go to a copyright strike because it's amazing lyrical. Go ahead and listen, I'll be right back.
What you Get out of my way. I'm radical biker. Get out of my way.
Yeah, that's right, a whole song about the pizza man, and I did roll the footage back a little bit because I also love that we have zombies and bats trying to keep us from delivering the pizza to what must only be Dracula's house. Don't know if that red sauce is blood, but that would make the most contextual sense. All jokes aside, I do think we're delivering a pizza to Dracula. But as we move on into later levels, this game just gets hard. There's so many sweeping turns that you have to practice for, and you will see here as we move on to a new world, it's going to get even harder because I messed up that pizza on my last delivery. The turns are going to get narrower, the traffic's going to get heavier, and you're going to need to be way more precise when you play this game because you're going to be going through factories, cruise ships, and all other manner of roadways that you probably should not be trying to deliver a pizza on. But that's where all the fun comes. Now, if you can find a PCB for this game, and it does seem to be that there's not one available as of the time of this recording, they go for like $300 to $400, and I think it's 100% worth it if you're into collecting arcade racing games like I am. Otherwise, you can play it on PlayStation 1 or even emulate it, but this is definitely a game I want for my collection. It is the perfect game night game. Just make sure you don't take a jump directly into the back of a tanker, you're totally going to screw yourself over. But you take this game out, you wire up some controls, and you let your friends play it with a couple drinks, and you start to challenge one another, and you're going to have an absolute blast. And I think I know why so many people requested this. If you've ever played it, you just fell in love with it. Now, Galco is not the most well-known developer. We featured a couple of games on imported playlists, stuff like TH Strikes Back, but they're not the most prolific maker of games. But just because they didn't make a ton of games doesn't mean they didn't know how to have a good time, and this is just a ton of fun. And in some ways it kind of feels like Emergency Call Ambulance from Sega, as well as Code 1 Dispatch from Konami, except the only thing you're doing is delivering pizzas. It is just one of those games. It is so strange, it is so weird, it's so absurd and so unique and so rare that it can't help but be charming. And that's what I always love about games. You'll see here I'm going to reverse into a shortcut. Charm goes a long way, even if the gameplay isn't perfect. I'm not saying that Radical Bikers is a perfect game. I'm saying it's a 10 out of 10 charming game. It's one of those experiences you never forget playing, and that is why I love it so much, and I know why so many people have been asking for it. It's also the type of game that if you really hammer down and start to practice, you're going to get a lot better at. It does take practice to learn the lines and understand where all the shortcuts are and all of the different jumps are, and that's a great thing in a racing game when they give you those shortcuts and let you kind of navigate around and learn the world. And that's a great thing in a racing game when you actually do have to practice. But I'm going to give you one more taste of the soundtrack just in case that first one got eaten up by a copyright flag. This one doesn't have any lyrics, but it still fits the game perfectly. Go ahead and listen for like 35 seconds or so, and I will be right back with more pizza.
Let's go!
And that's just the music before the lyrics of Pizza Man, and I'm kind of hoping that you did get to hear those lyrics because I can't imagine the developers at Galco filing the paperwork to have that be a copywritten song, but you never know. It is one of the best songs about pizza out there, but if you know about a better pizza song, leave me a comment down below because I would be painfully curious to hear what you guys come up with. You always surprise me with your comments. But honestly, if you've never played Radical Bikers before, just go and do it. It is a B-tier game from a B-tier developer that is A+ tier fun and A++ tier charming, going up to that S tier if you prescribe to that sort of Metal Gear grading aspect. It is weird, it is wild, it's colorful, it's strange, sometimes it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but you have a giant smile plastered across your face the entire time you play it. And like I said earlier, it makes 100% perfect sense why people would ask me to cover this game, even though it's technically been ported, because fans of it are diehard fans, and I just love the graphical style. This woman with the blockhead here, it has such a vibe going on, and I'm not sure if the hardware could have done better, or if this is the high-end spec. It kind of feels a little bit more stylized, but I'm really not sure because this hardware really didn't have much on it whatsoever, so it's hard to say how much of this is just the graphical style and how much of this is the capabilities of 1998 3D hardware for arcades. But run, don't walk. Find yourself a copy of Radical Bikers, play it today, and go deliver those pizzas, because I guarantee you your fun or your money back. And since you didn't buy either a pizza or a video off me today, that money back guarantee is worth absolutely nothing. Short of that, we'll have more videos throughout the week, but Radical Bikers is done and that pizza's delivered. Bye bye.